In a small Bavarian village at the foot of the Alps lived a carpenter named Hans. His house was solidly built, but there was one wrongness in that house that his neighbors couldn't see. Only Hans himself felt it at night. His wife Lieschen was a quiet, hard-working woman. She baked bread, cooked soup, but when Hans lay beside her, Lieschen was cold. He thought, maybe I don't work enough? He took on more orders, brought home money. Lieschen nodded and said nothing. He thought, maybe I don't talk to her enough? He began telling her about his work. Lieschen listened and remained silent. He thought, maybe she's tired? He started helping around the house, chopping wood, carrying water. Lieschen smiled quietly, but at night the cold returned. One day, Hans heard about an old hermit who lived high in the Alps. They said he knew the secrets of the human heart. Hans took his bag and went into the mountains. On the third night, he found a cave where an old man with a long gray beard sat by a fire. Hans told him everything about the house, about his work, about the cold that wouldn't leave even when the stove was blazing. The hermit listened and asked, "When you build a house, where do you start?" "With the foundation." "And when you fix a door, what do you look at?" "The hinges. If the hinges are loose, no matter how much you seal the gap, it will still warp." The hermit nodded. "You're looking for a crack in the wall to patch, but you need to look at the hinges." "What hinges?" Hans didn't understand. The hermit picked up a stone. "A stone is hard and cold. If you put it in the stove, it will warm on the outside, but inside it will remain cold, because a stone has no heart. A woman is not a stone, she is a fire, but a fire that doesn't burn from wood. It burns because there is another fire nearby. I give her everything: a house, money, protection." "You give what can be measured," the hermit interrupted. "Tell me, when you look at Lieschen, what do you see?" "She is my wife, a good housekeeper." "You're naming her functions. I'm asking, what do you see when you look at her, at Lieschen, who once, perhaps, dreamed of something?" Hans couldn't answer. The hermit showed him a piece of amber with a tiny bee frozen inside. The resin was liquid and warm when this bee fell into it. It embraced her and preserved her forever. If the resin had been cold, the bee would have shattered on the stone. A woman is like this bee. She can freeze and silence if a man is hard, or she can preserve her love if he embraces her with gentleness. Hans came down from the mountains. That evening, he sat by the window and said, "Lieschen, come sit beside me. Look how beautiful it is." She was surprised, but she sat down. He had never called her just to watch the sunset. "Do you remember when we first married? You used to sing by the stove." Lieschen lowered her eyes. "I stopped." "Why?" "You didn't listen." Hans looked at her, not at his wife, not at the housekeeper, but at that girl who once sang. "Sing." Lieschen quietly began an old Bavarian ballad. Her voice was weak, but with each verse it grew clearer and stronger. Hans closed his eyes and listened. When she finished, she laid her head on his shoulder, and the cold began to fade. Hans stopped bringing home money as the main proof of his love. He began to notice how she smiled, how her eyes lit up when he asked not "What's for dinner?" but "What are you thinking about?" One day Lieschen said, "Hans, I want to sing in the church choir. Do you mind?" In her eyes burned the fire he had tried so long to kindle. "Go," he said, "and invite me to listen." Lieschen smiled. In that smile was so much warmth that Hans finally understood what he hadn't understood for years. At night, the cold was gone. Lieschen reached for him herself, not with cold submission, but with living warmth. A neighbor was surprised. "Hans, what happened to your wife? She looks like she's grown younger." Hans smiled. "Nothing. I just stopped being a carpenter." "What did you become?" "A garden," said Hans. "A garden where she can bloom."